Hey everybody, it's Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're gonna have some fighting words. So we're here. Well, it's the day after the fight, and our guy won. We were pretty much everybody was rooting for Adrian Broner. Everybody wanted to see his comeback. Not to say anything ill on Jovanie Santiago, but in all fairness, I think everybody wanted to see how Adrian was gonna look after a 2-year hiatus, and now that he's coming back. So I did take some notes on the fight. I want to start by saying credit to Broner, because it could sound like I'm being a little down on Broner, but credit to Broner for losing so much weight. He was gone for 2 years. He lost around 35 pounds, could be more. Honestly, it could have been more, because keep in mind, he was supposed to come in at 140, and he came in at 146. So could have been a lot more. But still, credit to him for getting in the shape that he got into and his dedication to getting back into the sport of boxing. So let's see. I also want to credit Broner for being open and honest and being just very vulnerable. He mentioned a lot of things that, were just affecting him personally. He mentioned his gambling habits. He mentioned his alcohol abuse, and he mentioned his just lust for women, and how that can affect him, and not how it can, how it did affect him, just as a professional athlete and a prize fighter, more importantly. And just him battling those things and saying no to those things just to stay committed to the gym, to get himself in fighting shape. I also want to give credit to Jovanie Santiago. Let's just call a spade a spade. He was brought in most likely thinking he would lay down for Adrian Broner. However, in the press conference, Jovanie made it very clear that he was not there to be some stepping stone, and that he was not there to be a doormat. And he also came in undefeated, so he definitely didn't have a mindset of a loser. And he definitely wasn't coming in to be anybody's loser. And if he was going to lose, Adrian was going to have to take it from him. Now let me just kind of break down this fight. Like I said, Jovanie's more of a body puncher, and he's more of a pressure fighter, where he'll get you to the rings and then he'll work your body. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the referee. I felt like this man was breaking them up every time they got tangled up. And it wasn't like they were getting tangled up and they were like, roughhousing each other or elbowing or headbutts or anything like that. It was literally every time these two got together, he would just separate them. Now, some people work in close. For example, Sean Porter, he works in close. That's where he wants to be. That's his comfort zone. That's where he wants to be. A Canelo, he works in close. That's where he wants to be. Not every fighter is going to fight at a distance. So I'm not saying, he was there to help Adrian in any way, shape, or form, anything like that. But I did notice that every time that they got close, he would break them up. Okay, so the big thing about this fight in terms of Adrian Broner was, will he let his hands go? After being gone for 2 years, after hearing the same criticism time and time out, every time he fights, will he let his hands go? Now, for the first couple of rounds, he didn't really let his hands go. But one thing he did do that we weren't used to Adrian doing last couple of fights was utilizing his jab. I mean, he mentioned it after in the press conference, and it was a good jab. He used it well. He kept it in Jovanie's face. And even if you look at Jovanie's face after the fight, you would see that he used it well. Now, in terms of did he let his hands go? Yes and no. I will say yes because, yes, in the latter end of the fight, he started to let his hands go. And I'm talking the latter end in terms of like the 7th round. That was his first real rally cry, where he kind of let his hands go. And he did some body work on Jovanie. After that, he stayed pretty busy. I mean, I felt like he could have been busier, but he stayed pretty busy. I hear a lot of people giving him flack, the day after, saying he didn't let his hands go as much. not everybody is a Manny Pacquiao is going to throw 100,000 punches around. It's just not going to happen. Not everybody's like that. Look at Floyd Mayweather. He doesn't throw that many punches. He's very accurate, and I can give Broner the same credit. He's very accurate. You don't necessarily have to throw 1,000 punches every round if you are accurate and if you have some pop to it. Adrian has enough pop to where guys aren't running in on him. However, at 147, he doesn't have a lot of power. But then again, I don't think Santiago had a lot of power at 147 either. So I don't think they were a true danger to each other, to be honest with you. Sorry, like I said, I did take some notes. So one of the things that kind of weirded me out was when you have something that's working, stick with it. Jovanie very early was going at Adrian's body. However, once Adrian started doing what he was doing in the 7th round and he kind of just got a little bit more comfortable, Jovanie just stopped doing what was working. What was working was his body shots. What were adding up was his body shots. I'm not saying they were hurting Adrian, but I am saying that he was scoring with those. He definitely wasn't scoring with those jabs because Adrian was pretty much countering him every time he would try to throw something upstairs. But I am definitely saying he was definitely scoring with some body shots, but also he would throw more than once when he would go at Adrian to the body, which was important. So it does two things. One is breaking down your opponent. 2, what it's doing is getting you some points. And 3, you can gain ground in the ring. You can push your opponent back to where you can get a better position so that you can really get to work. But for some reason, Jovanie just stopped doing it. I don't know if it's because Adrian kind of let his hands go, and out of maybe a defense, he pulled back a little bit. But what could have also happened is Jovanie wasn't used to going the full distance. He's never been the full distance. So that was new territory for him. However, he looked pretty solid in terms of his gas tank. He didn't slow down tremendously to the point where Adrian could just walk around or Adrian could take a round off. It wasn't like that. Actually, the fight actually warmed up as it went on. It was kind of cooler in the beginning and it kind of warmed up. Now, I want to talk about, there could be some controversy with this fight, meaning that Jovanie definitely threw more punches. He definitely landed more than Adrian Broner. And I think that is important to say. So if we're looking at this in a point scoring, okay, fine, he might have landed more punches. However, sometimes it's not necessarily that you landed more, but it's who landed the more effective shots. Clearly, Adrian landed the more effective shots. And Adrian, one thing, even after 2 years of being off, his defense was pretty spot on. That's the one thing he didn't need to warm up. It was there from round 1, and it was consistent throughout the rounds as it went on. As I looked at this fight, like I said, it was a good fight. I think it was better. It was better in the second half than the first half. Jovanie was a tough opponent. He was a strong opponent. I mean, unfortunately, we'll never know what this fight could have been because originally this fight was supposed to take place at 140, where Jovanie is, a champ, and clearly he feels more confident and more comfortable fighting at. The same with Adrian. Adrian is naturally just a smaller guy, and 140 is a better size for him to fight in. As we've seen over the years, 147 welterweight is just not a good fit for him. He doesn't have a lot of power. Just the way he fights, he walks people down. That's just the way he is. But he's not exactly backing people off with his punches. So overall, I would say this was a good fight. I would say welcome back to the ring, Adrian Broner. I hope it's not the last we see of Jovanie Santiago. Let me just throw this in there. If I were Jovanie, I would ask for a rematch. I know that I might get some comments for that. But yeah, if I was Jovanie, I would definitely ask for a rematch. If we just want to look at who outworked who, clearly Jovanie threw well over 100 punches more than Adrian Broner. Also, Jovanie could make the argument, I was not fighting at my comfortable weight, my championship weight. That's another thing he could argue. So if I were him, I don't know if there was a rematch clause. I'm pretty sure there wasn't because it was all about Adrian Broner. But if there were a rematch clause, if I were Jovanie Santiago, I would definitely try to enforce that. But where do we go now with Adrian? Now that he's got this win, now he's back in the winning column because it's been a while since he's actually won a fight. So now that he's back winning, now that he's actually back in the sport, where does he go from here? Well, Regis Prograis is lurking. Adrian mentioned him. I don't know if he's ready for a Regis Prograis right now. What I saw wasn't enough to say, I want that animal on me. I don't feel like... give him another fight. Let him get more into his groove. Because granted, you still got to shake some things off. Yes, you've been training, and yes, you took off the weight. But I think his next fight will be a better performance. So give him another fight. Give him a second tune-up fight. And then let's consider a Regis Prograis. Because that's a man who hits hard. That's a man who throws combinations. That's a guy who knows how to bob and weave and slip punches. So he's not going to be as easy to hit. And he has a pretty solid chin as well. And I don't think he's ever been down. You can check that, but I'm pretty sure he's never been down. I don't know. So, not to mention he fought Josh Taylor, and that's a tough individual. And in my personal opinion, he won that fight. But I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Leave a comment down below. And as always, like and subscribe.